Hi, my name's Sheehan, and today I'd like to talk about Jaws, the 1975 film directed by Steven Spielberg and starring Roy Scheider, Richard Dreyfuss and Robert Shaw. I'd like to go through this famous film looking at the narrative structure as well as some of the themes that crop up. Now, Jaws of course needs no introduction. It's rightly regarded as one of the greatest films of the 70s, certainly one of the first blockbusters in the modern sense of the term, I guess. And of course it just captured the imaginations and terrified those who watched it right from the get-go, and still today it terrifies, watching it again, seeing the shark and the carnage that ensues really leaves an indelible mark in your mind. So the film really is in 3 acts with an introduction. The introduction is the bit right at the beginning where Chrissy, this young teenage girl, is killed by the shark. And then Act 1, we're introduced to Brody, the chief of police, and his family. They're not from Amity, which is the island the action's set on. They're from New York City, but they've moved there, and it's very much a bit of a change in pace of life for them. But he's confronted with the remains of this girl Chrissy on the beach, and immediately he's concerned that there might be more deaths. So he wants to close the beaches, but of course the mayor is against this. It's coming up to the big holiday season, the 4th of July celebrations, and the local economy relies on tourism, of course, and he wants this kind of be swept under the carpet, as it were. But then Brody, whilst he's on the beach a bit later on, keeping a rather worried eye on proceedings as people are splashing in the water, etc. on the beach, tragically a young boy is killed. And that's where we have that famous shot, of that kind of zooms in and at the same time zooms out onto Brody's face. Really marvellous. And really the first act is about the community, Brody, the mayor, the rest of the community coming in the aftermath of these 2 tragic deaths, of Chrissy, the teenage girl, and of Alex, I think he is the boy. There's soon this local hubbub around these deaths, and fishermen are offering their services to catch the shark, and there's a price being put on this shark's head. It creates all this commotion, and then we meet Quint, who is this loner of a fisherman, played absolutely brilliantly by Robert Shaw, of course, and he's the one who we know is destined to meet this shark. One of them's gonna die, that's for sure, and he has this kind of charisma and this eccentricity about him, which seems to fascinate Chief Brody. Also in Act 1, which is long, it's about 48 minutes or so, we meet Hooper, who's this expert in sharks. He's like a marine biologist, and he's this kind of young whiz kid from a rich family who has devoted his life to studying sharks, and he comes and helps Brody, and the shark is caught, but they realise it's the wrong one after they cut it open. And that brings us on to Act 2. And despite the deaths of the teenage girl and the young boy, the mayor insists that the beaches are open. In Act 2, he even encourages people to go into the sea, and it all focuses around the 4th of July celebrations. And here, after a false alarm with a couple of kids with a fake shark fin on their back. The shark attacks again, this time in a quieter part of the beach in the pond, and Brody's children and their friends are there, but the shark attacks a man, and you see his chewed off leg fall to the bottom of the seabed. This time Brody's not putting up with any nonsense. 3 people have been killed. It's time to call in Quint. And the final act of the film is really Quint, Brody and Hooper on board the Orca, Quint's boat, and they're tracking down and trying to catch the shark. But the shark, of course, has other plans. It seems to almost have a sheer vindictive mind of itself in terms of wishing to destroy their boat and attack them. And after the crew kind of bond, Quint gets on everyone's nerves initially, but eventually they bond over drinks and sharing stories. At the end, the Orca's practically wrecked. It's sinking. Hooper goes down in a cage. He's attacked by the shark. He escapes. But Quint's not so lucky on board the Orca. He is bitten in 2, and it's left up to Chief Brody to finally kill the shark by aiming a bullet at a canister of compressed gas which has been trapped in the shark's mouth, and it explodes. And then Hooper and Brody make their way back to shore. So this film, in an introduction of 3 acts, it's a fairly long film, it's 2 hours, but it's so economical. There's no kind of fat in this film. Everything is taut and keeps you on the edge of your seat. And the power of Jaws, of course, is not seeing much of the shark at all, but seeing glimpses of the shark, and of course seeing all the blood in the water and the sheer terror. That's what's so terrifying about this film, seeing the reactions of everyday people in the grip of a hugely traumatic experience. And it really is terrifying, of course helped by the fantastic John Williams score. And when you do see the shark, particularly in the 3rd act when they're out at sea, it really is terrifying. When you see its head come up, that famous moment where Brody says we're going to need a bigger boat. I mean, it really does take your breath away when you see that. And even 45 years on, it still really packs a punch, how the shark looks. And when you see it under the water next to the Orca, when they suddenly realise how vast this creature is, that's a really powerful moment as well. And of course seeing the shark eat Quint at the end is something which lives long in the memory. Other standout moments include, when Hooper goes underneath and finds a marooned fishing vessel which had been attacked by the shark, and then the fisherman's head kind of plumps out of the hole in the hull, and that just is a terrifying moment, particularly when you're not prepared for it. Really makes you jump. And then you get that wonderful moment on the boat where they're all sharing their stories, and it starts off very jovial and they're all having a drink and they're comparing scars, etc. And then Quint has that wonderful monologue about the Indianapolis warship, which was sunk and attacked by sharks, and that really is kind of the dark heart of this film, and it is just such a spellbinding performance by Robert Shaw. And you really feel for these 3 men on the boat by the end of it. Some of the themes, I guess, the terror of the sea, the terror of the unknown, the terror of a kind of bogeyman, if you like, or some monster lurking on the edges of our consciousness. The terror of nature, which we can never completely tame as human beings. These are all powerful themes which crop up in this film, which resonate deeply. Spielberg pulls no punches. It's particularly the second death, when it's this innocent boy just playing and his mother's looking, you know, everyone comes back onto the shore and his mother's just left there looking for her son, Alex. So touching and so moving and so tragic. You know, it could have easily just been another, you know, just an ordinary guy or whatever. But to make it a young, you know, a child makes it, the horror, even more palpable. Ultimately, you have to say that Jaws has to be one of the best films ever made, you know, particularly in this horror stroke blockbuster stroke thriller vein. Thank you for watching, and please check out the slideshow afterwards, going through the structure and with many of the themes. Bye.